I'm back here on the Stafford to Newport railway, and you may have seen my video that I made last summer, in summer 2013. I've come back because a couple of things have happened since I made that video. Firstly, I've come in possession of this great book, the Shropshire Union Railway book, full of fantastic facts, and I've learnt a lot about the line since I made that video, and wish I'd had this before. Also, a local councillor called Eric Carter, along with the county council, are trying to open up this final stretch because, as you remember from the last video, it just petered out into mud and you couldn't get to that final part to Newport, and the Shropshire County Council have gravelled the track from Newport, from the road that you can hear behind me. It's about a 3/4 mile stretch to the boundary with Staffordshire. There's a big campaign to get the part from the boundary into Staffordshire done because it just comes into a muddy path. I'm now going to walk down the track to where it actually reaches the county boundary and into the muddy path, and we're going to see how this part is being developed by the council. I've come about half a mile from the last location, and you can see the great job that the council's done putting this gravel track down on the old track bed. And if we swivel round, we can see the path going now towards Staffordshire. Well, I've reached the county boundary and you can see it marked here. We've got the gravel track here, sort of come to an end, and we've got the muddy patch, and this is the county boundary. Fantastic to get here because last summer when I made the video I couldn't get this far, so it's really great that we're able to get to this point. Thanks largely of course to Shropshire County Council, who have put this fantastic gravel path into place, and it's hoped of course that with negotiation with Staffordshire that we can get this part up to the same standard as the gravel. Now most of Staffordshire of course is fantastic, the footpath is just brilliant all the way to about a mile. It's just this final mile. If I go forwards a mile into Staffordshire, the track becomes quite wide, well-trodden track, good for riding on. But this last mile up to this point here is basically a muddy path, which at this time of the year, and it's winter, is very difficult to cycle on. So we're hoping that Staffordshire County Council will do this last part and join this gravel part at the border here and complete the whole path. We then have a footpath and cycleway all the way from Newport to Stafford. Well, we certainly hope that this footpath will be finished by the spring of 14. I know the hard work that Councillor Eric Carter is doing in Shropshire, along with councillors in Staffordshire. With a bit of luck this will be finished, and then the route all the way from Newport to Stafford will be open for walking and cycling without sinking into depths of mud. Look forward to that day. Well, as I sit here on the county boundary looking towards Shropshire, I just thought I'd have a look in this fantastic book, The Shropshire Union Railway by Bob Yates. Tells me absolutely everything about this. Some really interesting facts. The first contract was actually for this stretch of line, which is a 12-mile stretch up to Nosal and the joining with the Shropshire Union Canal. Cost of 79,000. I think it was a lot more than that. A lot of money in those days. In detail I've got here. The platforms, for example, £112, 19 shillings and 9 pence to build. There's also some interesting facts about the men who worked on the line. Like with all railway construction, there was quite an unruly crowd with different gangs of workers, and they often used to meet. There's a report here in the Wellington Journal of rival gangs of railway workers fighting in Wellington in February 1848. Several people died also in the building of the line, it says here. This was mainly in Shrewsbury. One person fell off the bridge and drowned, and one fell in the construction of a cutting. The opening of the line is interesting because it was celebrated differently from one end of the line to the other. Over here in Shropshire, in Shrewsbury and Wellington and Newport, big galas were held and people arrived at the station, flags flying, banners, even a brass band at Shrewsbury. However, in Staffordshire, the reaction was not quite so positive. Staffordshire advertised are not impressed with the facilities at Nosal station. I assume that was because of the wooden building, which they saw as temporary. I also guess in Stafford they're a bit more used to having lots of railway lines, and this was just one more extra line. But over here in Shropshire, it was seen as a much bigger event. stark contrast to when the line closed, and actually the campaign to keep it open was very small and soon flitted away. I think the local people were rather resigned to the fact that the line was going to go and that it wasn't profitable. And the campaign to keep the freight line going after the passenger services was even less convincing. So a certain amount of inevitability with the lines going, I'm afraid. Here's an interesting section on this line, because this is a bridge that crosses the railway. A viaduct was a road, but it's a road no longer. And it does rather show how the geography of an area changes, and you can hear in the distance just the rumble of the bypass, the Newport bypass, and that obviously took over as the major road here. This must have been a major route at some stage, otherwise they wouldn't have built such a fantastic bridge. For a moment it just disappears into a field, but the bridge remains. The other interesting fact about this bridge is clearly the land level has changed, because if you actually see the height of the bridge, the arch is not that high, and clearly the line must have been slightly lower than this. So I think this has been raised up partly for this driveway which has been put in here. So clearly the bridge must have been a little bit taller. Well, here at the Newport end you can see some of the great work done by the council. This really good footpath. It's on the edge of the Newport bypass, and you can see here right at the start of the actual pathway, and the pathway now stretches eastwards about 3/4 of a mile to the county boundary. Just as a conclusion to my update, this is the end of the path in Newport, and any hope of it ever going any further is not really going to happen. You can see the bypass which cuts across, and you've got the grain silo and the industrial estate in the distance, and any chance of this footpath being extended is, well, it's just not going to happen. Well, I'll look forward to giving another update as and when more work is done to complete the pathway between the two counties. Hopefully that update will be in the spring of 14.